when I rise up, and when I'm going out, and when I'm coming in, and before I lay down, I turn toward the temple and pray, yeah. I turn toward the temple and pray, yeah. I got a message straight from the Father. He go tell all of them bad boy, yeah, hanging out on the street corner, waiting to slay their own brother. Bombs are go drop, man better than man. Yeah, your fire are go burn. And when I see their wicked way,
Hear, O Israel, the Father, our Elohim, the Father is one. And thou shalt love the Father Elohim with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thy heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thy house, and when thou walkest by the way, when thou liest down, and when thou risest up.
Attacking all the naughty, liberty for Yahshua. And when I see their wicked ways, yeah, I turn toward the temple and pray, yeah. I turn toward the temple and pray, yeah. I turn toward the temple and pray, yeah, 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 yeah.
So we say shalom and good evening. Welcome to the Hero Israel Bible broadcast. Brothers and companions in tribulation, listeners on the World Wide Web, and within range of the WAVS radio station signal. Welcome. As we begin this evening, we'd like to remind you that the contents of this program are not the views of the management of the staff here at the station, but these are the views of Hero Israel, and as you'll hear, the views of our guests. We say shalom, peace, erev tav, welcome. This evening, as having said that, we want to greet you in the name of our Father, Yah, as written in Psalm 68, verse 4, where it says, declaring by his name, Yah, and from the seven spirits before his throne, as declared in Revelation, and in the name of his Son, Yeshua. Those of you who listened to our program last week know that we had talked about having a special guest on this week, which is the brothers from the Temple of Ptah, who have much to say about the principles of Ma'at. And so they had come down to our study, and we had had conversations, and that they gracefully accepted our invitation to come on our radio program and have a community discussion for the benefit of the community in terms of the principles of who we are and so on and so forth. So our program this evening will be with our brothers from that area, from Temple of Ptah, and his brother is with us this evening. Could you go ahead and introduce yourself, my brother?
Brother Dorian, here from Temple Ptah. And some people can call me by my Hebrew name, who knows that, is Brother Talan.
Brother Talan. So Brother Talan is with us this evening, and we're going to be having a discussion. Before we begin, we'd just like to take care of some household items. As we said to you before, this is a Bible broadcast, Hero Israel Bible broadcast, for those of you who are new to our broadcast. Therefore, chapter and verse, please. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 5 says, trust no man. And Hosea chapter 4, verse 6 says that my people perish for a lack of knowledge. So that what we're here this evening to discuss is that who is my people, what is this knowledge, why do we perish? This is this type of discussions that we've been having in Hero Israel over a period of time. Those of you who would like to get a hold of us may visit our website, www.heroisraelradio.com. Those of you wishing to email us may do so at heroisraelradio@gmail.com. We meet on a Sunday evenings at 2455 Southwest 57th Way, West Park, Florida 33023, at about 8:30 p.m. Jamaican time. Those of you who would like to participate in the program this evening, the call-in numbers are 954-792-1170 if you're in Broward, or 305-948-1170 if you're in Dade County. So that the broadcast is directed to the remnant of Israel, the children of the covenant, and we do this with an intention of elevating information, the type of information that will be beneficial to all. We might not agree, We ask if you call in to be respectful to our guests this evening, please, and a mutual respect that we will share and demonstrate on the program while we discuss the views as it relates to us as a people. So we say, regarding our special this evening, today's date, just for your record, it is the 3rd day of the month of Ab, from Hebrew month. If you're in the, and that's because we're in the 5th month based on our estimation of the rotation, not estimation, our actual observation. On the 11th of August is what I think it is, or the 10th, somewhere there, 2013. You may go to our website, go to the podcast page, and click on the donkey there, the top donkey, when you go to the bottom of the page, and you'll see this will be program number 209. This is a program which is a special between, and a discussion between the Brethren of Hero Israel and the brothers from Temple Ptah, as we discuss our mission and how just it is that how it is that we're going to move forward as a people. So we invite you to sit back, get your Bibles, get your tools, and just listen to the conversation. Brother Zuriel is going to be the moderator, and so basically he'll control both of us in terms of the amount of time that we use to respond to each other, and that we kind of stay on point.
Yes, greetings, brother. Brother Toulon.
Greetings, brother.
Yes.
And so as we begin this evening, Brother Toulon, could you go ahead and just give us, some further expound just who Temple Ptah is?
What we are a group of brothers who came together, who were in Masonry, and we come to this discussion and determination that Masonry is basically in the concept of Western Masonry. And we found that some of the misconceptions that some of these brothers have was very far, and we wanted to get to the bottom of things. So we found out that it's not 1717 that many of us was told. It goes way farther than that. The ancient temples of Luxor was where the first initiates were given their rights, and it took longer than what they was been told to take. Sometimes it take 42 years before you can be initiated fully into the temple. And so when we found this out through archaeological studies, these brothers decided that we need to get together and reformulate the concepts that was given wrong to us, and to reissue them back to brothers so we can finally, and sisters, because this is not just a man thing, it's a woman thing. And so on doing so, we have opened up what we call a temple. It's in Fort Lauderdale, and we have study groups, and we try to get brothers to understand that we're going to reach the young and the old, and as well as all in between, to get them to see what is exactly going on and get back to what our true roots, our ancient roots, because we can't move any further until we understand where we was at. And the problem that we have here is that many of us don't know our history whatsoever, and it's not a movie, it's not Hollywood. And once we get into books, archaeological studies, definitions of words, you find out that we've been totally bamboozled from what has been told to us. So like I said, we do this at the temple, and we affiliate also with our website, Dry Bones Connection, which connects you to all news from all around the world in the proper perspective of what it is, and that's what we do.
Well, I'd like to vouch for, I've been on the website where it says Dry Bones Connections, and it is in terms of information and the news presented from various perspectives, that's exactly what it does. What we, as a follow-up to our discussion, to begin the discussion, however, we had a discussion with our brother, and here's what we're saying. There's a body of information out there, regardless of where in the world it is. There's just a body of knowledge out there. And we'd like to understand if you have any books that refers to us here as a black people, the history of how we got here, you just talked about that, and how it is, the way forward. That is not only describes how we got here, but how it is that the way forward, how we're going to get out of this situation, is really what I think our community might be interested in listening to. Go ahead.
Well, getting out of the situation is going to be not just a group, but it's a personal endeavor for each individual who's listening. I mean, you have to take upon what you read. You say you study to show thyself approved. You have said you study to find the truth. And truth is not going to be something that's spontaneous. It takes time. And unfortunately, in this period of time, we believe that there's so many things that are out there that we have been hearing. But with this advent of the internet, which we never had before, we can clarify things much faster than we ever could before. So if somebody is saying a concept was this, we really have it at our fingertips to prove it or disprove it. And so what we're saying is this is a time frame that we can take and to sit at the table and actually analyze what we've been believing. That's the first thing. You can't know what you're believing until you analyze. We've been told things, but that doesn't mean it's true. So in doing so, I always tell people, I say, why do you believe this? Who told you this? And where does it come from? Where's the origin of this? And so that's where we believe that if we're going to get further as a people, we must find out the origins of things in order to move further, because basically we've been told, there's many books out there. I mean, we can go through a list of them, but mainly we shouldn't have to go through a lot. Our people left traces. They're all over the world. Pyramids. I mean, we have reliefs all over the world. They have find so many things about us. The problem is we don't study it. So we are not programmed to look up our history. Regardless if we the omelets, like you can see in our part of our mission. We're here to tell the whole truth about certain parts of it. We got here in this condition because we helped in the condition. If we do our research, you will find out that black people were masters over white people for a long period of time. We don't like to talk about those things. We want to push them to the side. If you understood the history of what has happened, it's really called retribution. Some of the things we have done as a people, who you think was the slave? The word slave comes from the word Slavic. The Moors had, and that whole region had full of white women. We had harems. So how do you expect us to understand this condition unless you understand what took place for this type of condition to be brought into? So this is what we like to do. I'm going to give you a quote right now. Many of y'all probably never heard this. It's by a pope. And I would think many of you who listening into the Christian world, this is what the Pope said, and it's Pope Leo the 10th. He says, how well we know what the profitable superstition this fable of Christ has been for us. That's something serious to think about, how they have came together and said there's a profitability over this book.
All right. Now, here's what I just like, why I want to interject, okay? So to move forward, we have to be very clear on what we're trying to answer. We have room for many questions. The question of whether or not Christ is a fib, is someone's imagination or not, is not the question that we wanted to start out discussing, because that Christ's relationship to us and our delivery here, you have automatically. This is what the question that we're trying to answer. How is it that black people are going to go forward? Now, without getting into the question of what the Pope said, because I think we can examine things for ourselves without trying to determine whether the Pope was right or wrong. So let's examine things from our perspective. Now, you're on your website. It says this, and I'm reading. Your brotherhood is founded on the 7 oracles of Ma'at, and these 7 principles are truth, justice, harmony, balance, reciprocity, order, and propriety. That these are the basic principles of morality which enable our ancestors to provide this world with the sciences of astronomy, agriculture, medicine, and art, and most of all, humanity. So far, that is a historical statement that we don't wish to take issue with, because I think that's proven out historically.
Correct.
Good, so let's continue. It says, this brotherhood, quote, will use these principles, that is that these Egyptian principles of Ma'at, as a guide to recruit and teach young men and women about their history, culture, and heritage as it relates to Freemasonry. So that, it goes on to say, this will provide a course of purpose to help to elevate our people politically, economically, Masonic, and spiritually. Could you explain to us why is it that Freemasonry is the answer to our problems?
I wouldn't say Freemasonry is the complete answer to our problem, but the understanding of it is definitely will create a better understanding of how this system works. Many of you do not realize that the United States is a Masonic republic as we speak. So in order to understand what's going on, you must have the understanding of what these principles and stuff mean. Now, being that it's been corrupted.
So if I may agree with you then, I think if you go to most Masonic texts, you'll see where the founding fathers of this country are in fact Freemasons.
Correct.
So that the place where I've been enslaved, and you are enslaved, therefore was built upon the principles of Freemasonry. Is that what we're saying?
No, we're saying that
Okay.
that they have taken our principles that was once used as for a stepping stone for humanity has now been used as a platform for slavery, based on the format that what has been given to us. We're not getting the pure text of Freemasonry. We're getting a Western bastardization of this system that they have created. The true Masonry and the true builders of this system have founded it on truth, justice, harmony, balance, reciprocity, order, and propriety. These are symbols of what a group of people in the ancient world had given. And we can see by the lifestyle that this ancient world gave and has been copied by so many people, it behooves us to want to set back to find out what was it that we have lost. And that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you. My brother, if I may interject at this point. So just before, because as time goes on, our first question, do you have any books? That was our original question. Do you have any books that deal with how we got into our position as black people in the Western Hemisphere and our delivery from this situation?
I can give you Babylon Timbuktu by Rudolph Windsor. We have Sheikh Diat's Barbarism Civilization, which is an excellent book. We have Dr. Bear Shangle, Destruction of Western Civilization. These books are out there for most of the conscious mind. This is nothing new. It's just that what's happening to this particular time frame, a lot of our people don't like to read. And so we having to come with another approach to them.
So let me just get this straight. Are you suggesting that Windsor's book suggests that we return to Freemasonry from Babylon to Timbuktu?
No, the concept of Freemasonry is you're thinking of it in a westernizational term because that's all you've been taught.
I understand that, but I'm asking a pointed question. You mentioned some sources, and we're going to go through each of them. I'm going to begin with the first one that you spoke of. From Babylon to Timbuktu.
Yes.
Good. Does that book tell us that Freemasonry, does Windsor mention Freemasonry as the way back for us?
He mentions the ancient cultures, which was basically those of Freemasons. Ancient black
in from Babylon to Timbuktu.
But Babylon, Timbuktu, once you research that book, you will find out that the Dogon, Mali, which has pyramids, these people were very well astute in stone, masonry, and astrology of how to build. So that is a formulation of masonry. We're not talking about, we have to first get this out of our mind. We're not talking about Western Freemasonry any longer because this is where the problem has been. Because the more we believe in Western Freemasonry, this is what.
What's the difference between Western Freemasonry and what you're saying?
Western Freemasonry connects you to England, period.
Okay.
And England tells the story. We tell the story in our temple, our history.
Let's talk about then let's talk about something. Are you saying that the English don't recognize the oracles of Ma'at?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay. Do they recognize the workings of the number 42?
They may know of the number 42, but I'm going to say that right now, under the conditions that we're in, we are not in true Ma'at at all. We haven't even come close because of the fact of what we've been under. We're under greed, lust, lasciviousness, everything that is opposite of what we're talking about in the Ma'at.
Good. So that black folks must now return to the Freemasonry.
No, I didn't say. So you're using that Freemasonry. I'm using Freemasonry as a term that we're using it for brothers and sisters who want to build your character.
Oh, so it's just about the individual. It's not about the community.
Well, the individual, that's how a community starts. It starts with a family, with mother, father, and family. Now, it starts with you taking individual as a person on this earth, saying I'm taking individual responsibility. Then it can correlate to the community. As of right now, we are not following anything that correlates to any of us having a community type of spirit.
Right. So that therefore, for someone like myself who believes in the Bible, and the Bible clearly points out that to go back down to Egypt and to go back down to the principles that are founded in Egypt, which is the principles of Ma'at. As I sent you in the email, we went through the number 42 and how that's related to 666. Now, and based on the pyramids, based on the Orion's belt, we went through all that. But just to keep it simple, I want to understand this. So we're saying now that the principles of Ma'at, which is basically Egyptian cosmology, is that correct?
Cosmology is part of it.
Right. But it's Egyptian thought. It is would you when the Bible says that we're not to return to Egypt, talking to us Israelites, talking to us who came here on the slave ships on the east wind, not those who came here under the Statue of Liberty. You see, we're agreed on more things than we're disagreed on.
Well,
so what I want to know is this: if when the Bible says that we're not to go back down to Egypt, how do you respond to the biblical admonition in view of this?
Okay, I do it in so many ways. It's easy because many of you who use the Bible as a history book, first of all, that's kind of a very big mistake. But secondly, you have to take in perspective, and I like people to think for a minute. Everybody comes out of Egypt. Every character in the Bible comes out of Egypt in some form or fashion. Jesus even goes back into Egypt to live. So something about Egypt, even if you look at it on a negative or positive.
Do you agree the Bible tells us not to go back down to Egypt?
No, it says it, but is that? Remember, me and you talked about a while about this. There's allegories, there's parables, there's similes. Is that literal to you?
Okay. Well, let's compare it to the prophecies from Egypt. Okay. Let's find. Let's do that.
Okay.
Do you have any Egyptian prophecies based on Egyptian wisdom that will tell us about the times that we're living in now?
Absolutely. It's all through the reliefs. Matter of fact, if you look at some of the reliefs, you can actually see the Egyptians killing the enemies who have besieged them prior to the Ptolemy periods, and it gives quick correlations of how they were taken into captivity, some of the prisoners. But we have a better way of understanding slavery is not the same slavery that you are thinking of in the ancient world as it is in today's world. First of all, if you look at some of the studies that's been given, you look at Joseph. Joseph still kept his identity, he kept his character, and he was considered supposed to be a slave of Egypt. Today, slavery, you forget, they have taken your whole history, your whole knowledge, your whole name, and you're completely chattel. That's not the same as Egyptian. And Egyptian was not the same thing. So we're trying to make Egyptian something that's not. And I'd like for us to understand the Bible is not historically. I can tell you right now by Dr. Walter Williams, The Historical Origin of Islam and Christianity and Judaism. One of the best books on the market, can completely put a rest to this, because these characters, and I'm going to say this again, these characters, some of them are not even real. So that's something that we need to take into account of, and then that's why we're having this debate, because we're trying to mix fictitious characters with real living historical characters.
Okay, I have a caller here that has a question for Brother Toulon along the same lines of the subject. Go ahead, caller.
Shalom, yeah.
Shalom, my brother.
Yeah, I think you already answered my question. The question was if you use the Bible as a reference, but I think you just answered it before I asked the question. But the thing is, obviously you believe in Masonry, and there's a separation between your Masonry and what Masons call today. I'm not sure. I'm not knowledgeable about a lot about Masonry, but all I know is they worship Lucifer. Is that correct?
We don't worship Lucifer. Now again, there is a difference, and when you get into different degrees of Masonry, you're taking the name Lucifer, which really means light bearer, and the bright and morning star, and they have equated that same scripture to Jesus in some parts of the Bible as the bright and morning star. So, see, these are the things that you have to be aware of that are put into the Bible, particularly the King James Bible, because the King James Bible was written by Masons, period. So this, I'm trying to explain to you the key relevance of how they wrote it in symbolic terminology. So Lucifer is not what you think. Lucifer just means one who brings light.
All right. Thank you, caller. All right. So back to our discussion. A couple questions on the table now. We've asked you the original question: do you have a book from Egypt that talks about the deliverance of our people, which you have not cited, my brother, to be fair?
Well,
you
I'm going to tell you why, because
okay.
You're looking for Egyptians' history to correlate with the Bible.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. The question was, well, the question that Brother Adai asked was, do you have any book that shows how we got into this position and how we're going to get out? Any book.
It doesn't have to be the Bible. It doesn't
have to be
correlate
the
to the
Bible.
Bible. It doesn't have to be any book.
I mean, I told you there's a bunch of books out there. Babylon Temple 2, Valley of the Dry Bones.
Right. But those books are contemporary books. Those aren't ancient books from Egypt.
But ancient books, Egypt only wrote in reliefs, which have to be deciphered. So you're even the good thing what you're saying. You're asking for books in Egypt. They have papyrus, but most of them are reliefs on the wall.
Right. You ever read anything from Hermes?
Yes, the Book of Hermes is nothing but Ptah and Horus.
Okay.
And these are what I'm talking about. You can have the Book of the Dead, which you have heard was done by Wallace Budge. You also have Aset, Asar, the trilogy of the Trinity. There's so many things that have been out there for years that has now correlated with some of the Bible stories. My question to most of you is, why not take from the original? Why not let us go back to the original and go? Why are we going through stuff that's later?
We're going to ask Brother Dad to answer that question.
Okay. Here is where the Bible, and we know you want to know why we don't go back to the original. Here's what we have to say to you about the Bible. Okay. What the Bible does is it says, now let me see which one of your books can tell you the end from before the beginning. So that to do this, the Bible uses a thing it calls prophecy. And what it did was it spoke to one prophet. He said, no, take off your clothes and walk naked and barefoot for 3 years for a sign upon Egypt and upon Ethiopia, that the Egyptians and the Ethiopians shall be taken naked and bare buttocked into these islands, and they shall cry out, how shall they be delivered? And Ethiopia shall be their expectation, and Egypt their glory. Now, that to me is a very simple statement if you put it in the context of the prophecies surrounding it that applies to us out here in the West. Contextually, for example, it's related to Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28 told us that there are a people, let's say they're the Chinese, let's say we don't know who they are. Let's say there are some green people. But these green people entered into a covenant with some people that came out of Egypt. Now, the people who came out of Egypt, these are the green people, was an admixture of Ethiopians and Egyptians,
Nubians,
and some Shemites. This was a great mixed multitude of people. This mixed multitude of people became divided into two kingdoms. I'm telling you the end from before the beginning. The northern kingdom was referred to as Ethiopians and Egyptians, such as when Isaiah took off his clothes. And to understand that, we have to understand the 3-year sign. The northern kingdom is also called Ephraim. The northern kingdom is also called Samaria. The northern kingdom is also called 10 tribes. These are synonyms for a people who the gospel explains were enemies for the gospel's sake. So somebody was enemies for the gospel's sake, that is, but they are beloved for the Father's sake. So what we have found is that our black brothers here, us, ourselves, not only fit this description to a T of who fulfills Deuteronomy 28, but who shows up in Isaiah chapter 20, which are the said people that came here on the east wind, which are you and I. That said book calls us the people of Moses and says, do not go back down into Egypt again. And then it says, to boot, that when we find out who we are, we have to return to do all the things that this book commanded. So in a nutshell, here's what we have. We have the Bible with some information in it that albeit tampered with, and we can get to specific tamperings.
Yeah.
Okay, albeit tampered with, in a nutshell, unlike the Quran, unlike the Talmud, unlike the Vedas, when I examine all history, including, and I'm going to go to some of the prophecies to Asclepius this evening as we close, some of the Egyptian prophecies, to show you what I'm saying. And when I've looked at all the body of information out there, including Egypt, and yeah, we have looked at some of these things, not because we haven't responded to you on them, I have not found yet any book, any body of information, regardless of how we might say it's tampering. We'll get to the tampering, like I said. This is a collection, biblos, as you properly said. Or any collection which not only identifies me down to the bone about being naked and bare-buttocked, chained, but told me this: I have 400 years. This 400 years was reduced to 390 years by the construction of the whip. I demonstrated that to you at our class. And that it was times 7. Not 7 times anything or 0, but times 7. So that from the time this man Isaiah took off his clothes, the punishment amounts to 2,730 years, my brother Thailand. That's why we have a problem locating the 400 years specifically. I've shared with you before where the Bible itself shows you that that wasn't accomplished down in Egypt. We know that by looking at the lineage of Moses. So here's what we're saying. We're saying that at the end of the day, do you have a book which describes us? I can go into some details about us. It says, "Oh, you Ethiopians, aren't you like the house of Israel unto me?" It calls Egypt my people. It's referring to us. The Bible makes a big distinction between the state of Egypt, the pyramids of Egypt, and the history of Egypt, and those people who came out of Egypt. And we are those people. And we know this by the slave trade. We know this because we continue to be the economic underclass. Let me say something to you. Yeah, and I know you might disagree with this.
I'm ready to get back onto it.
Yes. Let's get back onto it. Yeah. Which books? This is the first thing we want to answer this evening as we proceed. Because we hold up the Bible, not Christianity, not Islam, not Judaism. We need to get that straight. We don't worship like our conquerors, nor do we have share the same understanding. Let's get that off the table. About Freemasonry, I'm going to answer you specifically. I have a Freemason Bible here. We're going to invite you back because we want our community to hear the full truth. Now, I just want to get base one clear first. Before we start opening the Freemason books, before I start explaining to you in that email about 42, how it is the 666, how it's found on top of the pyramids, and the gematria of your said math does not lie, trivium and quadrivium. Before we go into this type of reasoning, I just want to get base one out straight. We have many weeks. Well, here's base one. Do you have a book? This is ours. This is ours. And I know you think King James did this and all this. We can get to all this. But do you have a book, regardless of the tampering right now? Do you have a collection of books like this one? Yeah, that just simply says, not something contemporary, not what Windsor put forward, because Windsor doesn't tell us how to get out of here. Matter of fact, let me tell you the confession. Truthfully, Windsor confused the house of Israel and the house of Judah. That's the truth. But that's another discussion for Windsor's books. Do you have a book like this, my brother, that tells me instructions in righteousness and how to get out of here? If Freemasonry that you're talking about does that, explain that to us.
Okay, because you asked me a bunch of questions. Let me get back to one. You said
Brother Tulam, before you begin, let's just deal with the first question, because there were many polls within it, but the first question, do you have a book?
Yeah, the pyramids.
Not the pyramids,
because that's the books. The reliefs are the books.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. And they have to be explained properly, because you're looking for paper. We have it in stone. But he said something about them being here. We have it in our mission statement. We were already here. The Omnic people was already here. So by us saying that we were being brought here by slave ships, that's incorrect.
So you don't recognize chattel slavery?
I didn't tell you that. I said that, but black people, the definition of the word America was by Webster said, copper-colored people were here when they got here, which would meant they seemed.
But that's not what we're discussing.
Yes,
we're
we
not.
are. Hold on. Let me get.
We're talking about chattel slavery.
No, hold on.
Chattel slavery. Now.
But you have to first say chattel slavery is another condition.
Were the people here when it was the Americas? Were they here as slaves?
No, they weren't.
That's my point. Deuteronomy 28 talks about a people who were taken chained, naked, and bare buttocks as slaves.
Now,
if the Moors or whoever was here didn't come here as slaves, they're outside this discussion.
Well, hold on. They can't be outside discussion because you find out that they were the creation of slavery.
But they were not the curse of Moses' law.
Hold on. You're using Moses as a person that said that they all through history, and I'm talking about factual history through archaeology, there is no Exodus whatsoever.
That's not true.
You show me a book that has a real Exodus
all right,
outside the Bible.
Okay.
Before we get to the Exodus,
I can do that. I can
You know
do
it?
that. Right.
Okay, I like to see it.
But before we get lost in the Exodus, here's what we're trying to say now. You see, we can keep jumping from one point to the next point. We sent you an email. You agreed to bring a book, and you sent me the 42 Principles of Ma'at. Is this your answer to our question?
That's part of the answer. I got Walter Williams. I just brought. This is one of the best. If you read this whole book, it will explain exactly how we got into this condition. First of all, I asked you a question.
Is that a recent book?
That you have to realize. You want the Bible is not a recent. Bible's a recent book.
It is?
Yes, because
as recent as what?
As recent. Let's see, the first Sinai Bible. We're talking probably about 1400s.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Okay.
When was that written?
No, hold on. See, you want to jump over the time frame of the Bible.
I know we're talking recent.
But hold on.
I'm asking if that's a recent book.
This is a recent book because you have to do archaeological studies. The Bible is a.
Do you have any archaeological proof that the Bible is not true?
Oh, let's just say this. There are so many proofs of the Bible being
archaeological proof. No, you just said archaeological.
Archaeological proof, absolutely.
Yes, please mention one.
Absolutely. First of all,
please mention one. That the Bible is not true. Listen up, brethren.
Hold on.
Archaeological proof that the Bible is not true.
And I'm just going to give you a statement.
Okay.
The Bible is written by people who use symbolic language. So we're having this debate today because we do not recognize, or he may not recognize, or I may recognize the symbolic language. You cannot have people saying that there's a pyramid they built in slavery, it was an Exodus. They show no proof, but on the pyramids shows the whole history of Egypt and Nubia.
Brother Tula, sorry to cut you off. Please answer the question.
I just did. It's on. It's right there.
That's not the question. The question was, do you have any archaeological proof, evidence that disproves the Bible?
How about the history of the?
You're telling me about archaeological evidence that proves that Egypt existed. We're not arguing that. There are tombs and pyramids all over the place.
No, I'm saying, you're saying the Bible.
Yes.
The Bible is a story.
We understand your definition of the Bible. Here's what we're asking you for. We're asking you for archaeological evidence. You know, like the stones. What you said over there was that's an archaeological evidence, correct?
That's right.
I'm asking you a straight up point, my brother.
Archaeological evidence.
Give me some archaeological evidence that proves that the Bible is wrong.
About what? What part?
Any part.
Jesus.
Archaeologically? Yeah. Come up with it. Bring it. What is it?
There's no proof of Jesus' tomb. There's no proof of Solomon's tomb.
That does not disprove.
Yes, it does.
You listen. Did you understand my question?
I do understand. Because
you're answering. Listen to the question again. Do you have any archaeological evidence? Not what you didn't find. Evidence is something that you found. You're telling me what you haven't found. Listen to what evidence is. Evidence is something that you present. Right. Let me go over this again. Do you have any archaeological evidence that disproves any part of the Bible? Present it.
Noah's Ark.
You have it, or you don't have it?
You mean, do I have what?
Noah's Ark.
There's no such thing as Noah's Ark.
What is the archaeological evidence that you're telling me what doesn't exist?
Noah's Ark is nothing but a remake.
We understand that. What archaeological evidence do you have to support that? What you're just saying?
Because many of you who are listening, go to the British libraries, go to the German libraries. Look up the archaeological book of Noah. You will see that is no more than Ptah's Ankh that they have floating in the Cairo Museum. These are what these stories are coming from. The historical stories are coming from out of the Egyptian experience. Now, actually, one question. The people who wrote this Bible at the time this is writing about putting us in chattel slavery, that Bible was written in what, 1600s, King James Version?
The 1611.
Okay,
is
1611.
is a authorized.
Right.
Authorized, not a writing. No, it's not a writing. It's not a writing. It's an authorized. King James did not write anything.
I know his people. His people.
Good.
So
And based upon the Texas Receptus, and based upon the Septuagint,
Oh, no.
and we can go way back to,
No.
to some books in this that go way back
the
to
reason-
the first century,
the reason
to the
why
Dead
I'm
Sea
saying that-
Scrolls,
the
etc.,
reason
etc.
why-
So let's go to
The only
1611.
reason I'm saying that because the book that's ingrained in the people's mind that we want to help is the King James Version. That Bible was given authorization by Sir Francis Bacon. At the same time, they were orchestrating the slave trade was when this book came out. And remember, people, this was the only book they wanted you to read. As in slavery, that since he likes to bring up about our people being in slavery, we couldn't read or write.
Let me just correct that. Okay. Here's the history of the Bible, people. There's a man called Erasmus. Erasmus was doing the translation. The man who actually wanted the Bible to be translated into the common language for everybody to read is a man called Tyndale. He wrote the Tyndale Bible.
William Tyndale.
William Tyndale was the one who was strangled and burnt so that you and I could read this in English.
Hold on.
William Tyndale preceded the 1611 version. William Tyndale was 1516.
Hold on. Listen to what you're saying. William Tyndale is English, my people.
Sure.
Listen, English.
That's the language we're speaking. That's what we're talking about.
Now, the people who you under subjection to is English.
That's the language
So,
we're speaking.
because
That's what's a part of the curse.
because that-
you speak of a language that you difficult for you to understand. That's why we have to give God thanks that He sent a white man, yes, who would translate it into a language difficult. Yes, really, because otherwise you and I would not be able to read it. What language did your slave masters teach
First
you?
of all, you got people from Haiti who speaks French. What's the excuse for them?
Oh, wait a minute.
No, because
can I answer you? Can I answer you?
Yeah,
I have read the Bible in French.
And
there are French versions of the King James Version.
Now, hold on, let me get to that point. Now, these are the people that have you under the condition. Now, regardless how y'all feel, in 1555 they came with this book in hand. The first slave ship was called the good ship. What?
Listen, we're in agreement with you.
No, hold on.
Wait a minute. Christianity enslaved us. That was a part of the curse, then.
Again,
you see what you're seeming to
Ask
think.
yourself
What
this
you're,
one.
let's understand what this book says. What this book says is that Christianity, just like going back down into Egypt, was a part of the curse. It's called stick and stone worship. So if you think you're talking to somebody who wasn't one to admit the positive and the negatives in the Bible, you're wrong. There are issues with it. Do you have a collection of books that can come forward and describe Christianity for me, for example?
we can come forward and define it as what? I told you.
Outside of this corpus, do you have any Egyptian prophecies that prophesy Christianity? Because this does.
Well, the Coptics. Okay, let's go further.
The Coptics, once again.
The book of the
once again.
How about this? If you do the Constantine studies, you find out this thing went through generations of generations based off the authenticity of is there a Jesus. That means that there really was no such thing.
Have changed the subject to is there a Jesus. Bible, listen to what I'm saying to you. Listen to what we're both. Let's educate our community. Let's educate. But we are changing the point.
No, I'm not.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm all
right, we got 15 minutes left, gentlemen, so let's get very pointed.
Okay.
The question on the table is, first of all, hold on a second, Brother Tula. I'm going to let you talk. I'm going to let you talk. The question on the table was, is there any archaeological evidence that you have that disproves the Bible? Evidence. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to answer, brother. Go ahead.
Please, go on. Don't listen to me. Go on YouTube. It's out there. Go in Christianity versus Egypt, or Egypt founded on Christianity. Just punch that in Google. You will see tons of videotapes and archaeological studies from Sheikh Diat, from different archaeologists, because you cannot take the pyramids and put them into such a thing where you have to, it's a book. The pyramids had to be deciphered, and it had to be talked to by other people. So what we're saying is we are now formulating what the pyramids have said, and we're coming out to the people, and we're finding out this is what will help us understand our history. The Bible, again, I'm going to say this as nice as possible. the Bible has so many inconsistencies and is written by Masonic people. And if you do not understand it, we cannot move forward, because you're saying he's reading the Bible that I'm telling you was written by these people, and you're going to tell me your slave oppressor is going to give you the answers. That is why we're in this condition.
Brother Dark?
Okay. You see, what we have to understand is this. We have a question in front of us where we're arguing about some information that you have not presented. We maintain, don't criticize the Bible. We'll give you all the space for criticizing the Bible. We'll deal with all the questions that you're raising about the Bible. That's not the question before us now. We acknowledge that the Bible is a body of information which exists, and we say that this body of information points to a people and describes some explicit details about them that our captors were never in their rightest minds ever going to translate about you, because the same Bible talks about your dominion over them. Okay, that's the first thing. Here is the question that we're trying to lift the consciousness of our community about. Is it the Quran? Bring it. Is it the Hadith? Bring it. We have had Muslims who have refused to come on the program when we simply say to them, my brother, just open a surah to me. Just open the surah and the verse and show us some fundamental questions. We've had rabbis on the program from Jerusalem. We have said to the rabbi, if it's in the Mishnah, just bring the portion. If it's in the Talmud, bring it. That's all we're saying. Stop these wide, broad brush allegations about what the Bible is and what the Bible is not and what the Babylonian Talmud is. And we're not Christians, Jews, and Muslims. We're not interested in that. What we want you to tell us to our community, and that's why we're here together. If you are saying that ancient Freemasonry is the way back for us as a people, get up and defend that. But before you defend that, we're asking you if you have a body of information, which we say that this one is, which defines how we got into this chattel slavery and how we're going to get out of it.
All right,
now, we might disagree with how it says, but we have it.
All right.
Well,
that's the original question.
Well,
I won't give you 2 minutes again, brother. Too long. Go
Again.
ahead. This is the original question again. Once again, this is the question we started with. Do you have a body of information that you can bring to us, not that we need to go to get to travel to and see them on a wall? Do you have a body of information like the Bible that we say does give us the information? Do you have a body of information that tells us how we got into this situation specifically and how we're going to get out specifically? I'll give you 2 minutes to respond, my brother. Go ahead.
Again,
if you need more time, go ahead.
The Book of the Dead. The book coming through by day and night. These are Egyptian books that you can go and look at some of the reliefs and what was translated. That's only books you can probably get that you can give a clear understanding to.
My brother, I've read the Book of the Dead. We've talked about it on this program. It doesn't do that.
Give me time. 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 We're gonna have your time.
What's happening is which is a good debate about how we got here and so forth like that. But the history of how we got here compared to what is actually factual is being done through the Bible. And this is where the problem is going to always lie.
Bring the other sources for us, please. That's what we're saying.
All we're talking about is history, period.
But bring the sources. Bring the sources.
But historically,
this is not just history. This is a prophecy. Listen, I'm going to go to some Egyptian prophecies. Let's do that.
You gave me 2 minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
See, a lot of times I'm being stopped. I can't get to finish what I'm saying because
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're keying in because.
All right, let's go. We're going to get 2 interrupted minutes, brother. Go ahead.
2 minutes, please.
2 interrupted minutes.
And so the problem lies, you have plenty of information out there. I gave them books. Now, again, all I'm saying to the listening audience is the Bible, in its context, is more and so taken out of Egyptian culture. And I'm telling you the symbolism and everything. Now, in order for me to explain that to you, you probably would have to see some of the similarities that's in the Bible and part of on the reliefs. Like Moses carrying 2 pillars when you find out that Khufu had 2 pillars on his head. These are different things that you can see and say, well, this story culminates off of this story. And this is what we're saying only. Masonry is not what we're talking about in the English or what they call the European style. A builder. The reason why we're talking masonry because it took a lot of knowledge to build that temple. would build those pyramids. And for them to be able to build that type of structure took mathematics. That's why we have in our mission statement, mathematics. It took astrology. It took the knowing of the universe and the star system to understand it. We have to get back into play with our true self and with the universe. That's what I'm saying. Now, if you use the Bible,
30 seconds, brother.
If you use the Bible and say why we got here, I'm gonna give you a perfect example. We got here because we made contracts with the English. The Moors made contracts. Period. Look it up. It's called the Elizabethan era, where the Moors made contracts with the slave trade to come through through Gibraltar, and this is what this is all about too. We trying to make it sound like God put us in there, and we put ourselves in here.
All right, that's 2 minutes, brother. Go ahead, brother. There.
My brother, I understand that what we agreed on to come to our audience this evening, which is a body of information, that what you're doing is you're directing us to other books instead of presenting the information. You're telling us to go to Wallace Budge, go to this, go to that. Well,
isn't that information?
Yeah, but we went to the Book of the Dead, and if you'd like to, we can schedule a program and we can go through the Book of the Dead together.
I'd like to, but
because the Book of the Dead doesn't tell us about how we got here. Neither does the Book of the Dead tell us the way forward.
Well,
neither does Egyptian philosophy, prophecy. I want to close, okay, because the time is up on us.
No, I'm sorry about that.
And no, we're going to invite you back. We want to, you see, if you're willing to come back, I want to open up this conversation, because there's nothing that we're going to convince each other about. Let's see if we can speak to our audience and educate them. Okay? Now, I'd written to you about the mathematics of the cipher of Ma'at. Okay, you come back and you mentioned this again. Come back to the whiteboard again. I showed you just mentioned the mathematics of the pyramid. My brother, there's a reason why the two corners are exactly 51.5 degrees. I told you that. Without that information, you couldn't have built it. But you also know the number of degrees in a triangle. That tells you what the angle is of the top missing eye of the pyramid. I've explained to you how I've calculated it here using decimal parity. I've showed you that Ma'at is at the top of the pyramid. And if you wish to, come back on Sunday, and I'll do it. What I wrote down here, I explained it to you, how you get 7 6 is 42, how is that is the exact angle, and that is 4 plus 2 is 6, and that is 3 times, which is pointing at Orion's belt. But let me just say something to you.
Who built that? Did the Hebrews build it?
No.
Okay, then
that's exactly, no, we're not denying who built it. Here's what I'm going to tell you, though. Would you agree that Egypt was built to reflect the heavens above?
Absolutely.
Good.
As above, so below.
Good. As above, so below.
That's what the Star of David's about.
Good. Well, guess what this book says? This book says...
Which one? Which book? Because you got two.
I've got this one right.
Okay.
The selection of Biblios.
And that King James version? Okay, go ahead.
That's what it says, okay?
The Masonic,
in Revelation.
The Masonic version.
In Revelation.
Let them know it's Masonic, though.
Yeah.
No, but tell the people that book is Masonic.
This is what you're claiming. I don't know that.
Wait,
but let's not go there. Let me finish.
Hold on,
I'm trying to find the Bibles, you know. The Bibles, you know. Answer this. Listen to me. When as above, so below. Listen to me. Because this is what we're talking about. Not textual criticism of the Bible right now. I'm quoting something to you. When it says as above, so below, as in Egypt, the Bible has a prophecy, people. We have been talking about it. It's called the 7 trumpets, where a third of the heavens is destroyed. The Bible prophesies that in that day he shall put Egypt in darkness, that the Egyptians shall be scattered and the land shall be desolate for 40 years. But that's biblical prophecy. You see, there is also Egyptian prophecy. There's the lament of Hermes the Egyptian in the Philip Copen's writing.
And that's Horus.
Good. Please go online and check this out. Here's what you're going to find out from their own material. Now, this is what we mean. When we present evidence, my brother.
I just did too.
Wait, but let me read it to you, because those things are not evidence of a story. I'm now going to prophecy. I ask you, do you have a book that tells the end from before the beginning? For the whole program, you couldn't answer me. No, I'm going into your library and pulling out one of your books that tell you the end from the beginning. Why didn't you refer to this book?
I said Horus. I said I knew it.
No, this particular, the lament of you. Did you refer to this? Yes or no?
No, I didn't.
Are you familiar with this?
Hey, who wrote that one? Philip Corpus.
Are you familiar with the lament? Are you Are you familiar with the lament of Hermes the Egyptian?
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay, good. Then that's
because there's so many.
3 minutes, my brother.
No, okay, well here's
My turn.
No, one second.
he has to close off.
We have to close.
We have to go because we need to come back.
Yeah.
Well,
We need to come back. We need to come back because we can't come here with what we're not familiar with and represent what we don't understand. Let's represent what we understand. I'm going to refer to the Principles of Ma'at, your book,
Right.
and the Lament of Hermes next program. Shalom. Thank you, folks. My brother, you have not presented an information of books like the Bible. But thank you for coming. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here. We will continue this because we want to give you space to finish this conversation.
thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you, and we hope to do it again.
All right. Folks, we must go. The time is up on us as you hear the music. It's midnight. We try to open up this conversation. My brother is making a point to us. He's saying that these books are written by Masons, that they're Messianic books. And I'm going to give him that. But I'm going to ask him if the Mason would describe the way that we were going to get out of this slavery and have the children of the Masons be our servants. You see, there is a birthright and a promise to you in the Bible. If you don't understand your birthright, you will sell it for less than a cup of red pea soup. You see, your birthright and your blessings is what God gave you when He brought you out of Egypt and brought you to Sinai. Way before Ma'at and Moses, when they said that Moses took these commandments, the Bible shows you where if you understand it, and the Masons couldn't have written this, is where before the 10 Commandments were given, the principle of Ka was destroyed by Moses. That's clearly written in the book of Exodus. But you see, what the brother has to do is bring the books, because we're not ignorant of these things. Rather, we have read them and we have refused them. The Bible warned us about going back down into Egypt again, about going back down into a land that it points out is a land that supports all of the cosmology which is now available that we now see. We'll go through each of these. But for those of you who have been listening to this program for a while, we thank you for calling and listening studiously. You know our position. Satan have you in a necklock. The way to get out of the netlock is to find out who you are and admit that we were wrong and our punishment is just and deserved. Brethren, that means we have to get rid of the pride. We have to get rid of something called the root of bitterness. And it means we have to stand up and admit as men that we are the children of Elohim. We have walked contrary to him. He has walked contrary to us. Our punishment is just and deserved. That's what we say. Shalom, brethren. Yah willing, next week, same station, Brother Zion will be back. We'll continue the discussion. Shalom.
When I rise up and when I'm going out and when I'm coming in and before I lay down, I turn toward the temple and pray. Yeah, I turn toward the temple and pray. Yeah, I got a message straight from the Father. He go tell all of them bad boy, yeah, hanging out on the street corner, waiting to slay their own brother. Bombs are go drop, man better than man. Yeah, your fire are go burn. And when I see their wicked ways, yeah, I turn toward the temple and pray. Yeah, I turn toward the temple and pray. Yeah. I've traveled all over I've seen the preachers preaching in the churches, taking all the glory, attacking all the naughty, liberty for Yahshua. And when I see their wicked ways, yeah, I turn toward the temple and pray, yeah. I turn toward the temple and pray, yeah.